So, we are on our way to collect some Labrador tea. Labrador tea is a plant, it's more like a shrub, that is in the Latin plant family that's called Ericaceae, which contains other notorious plants such as blueberry. Now Labrador tea, is, Latin name is Rhododendron groenlandicum, and it has been used in many different medicinal contexts by many different native people throughout time. Now, this plant species is what's called circumboreal, which means that it occurs in northern regions all around the world. And we're gonna go find some. It's usually in a boggy habitat. So we're gonna go look through a black spruce tamarack bog and we will find some Labrador tea. So it's March here, late March, and we got a little bit of a late spring storm, although it's definitely not uncommon at all in these northern latitudes to see significant snowfall persisting into and perhaps through April. So this was obviously a wet snow, and you can see it clinging to all these trees. Now these are mostly coniferous trees, needle-bearing, cone-bearing trees, mainly balsam fir and black spruce. There is some pine, white and jack, and some red scattered. And as far as hardwoods or broadleaf trees, we have mostly paper birch and aspen, also known as popple or poplar. Okay, now we are seeing some Labrador tea for the first time, and one distinguishing characteristic is the undersides of the leaves are very fuzzy. It's a yellowy to orange fuzz. The leaves are tough, evergreen. There's some scale in my hand. And it kind of has this low, boggy shrub growth form. Yeah, but once again, that's about the size of the leaves. I have a pretty big hand. I'd say they're about 2 inches long and have that fuzzy underside. The top side is kind of a deep green color. Now these kind of look a little bit weird because they're covered in snow, so they're a little bit more curled than they normally would be. So there's a little pile that I collected that should be plenty. A few clumps. I was dumb and I forgot to bring a pruner, so I ended up just using a key to kind of break the branches, and it worked all right, but I was pretty dumb to forget that. So definitely bring something a little bit better to cut the Labrador tea ends off than a key. So another thing to consider when you're collecting Labrador tea to actually make tea with, I guess, would be the time of the year that you collect it. I'm sure that there are variations in taste, quality, chemical composition, etc., depending on what time of the year you collect it in.
So here is some of our Labrador tea leaves, and once again you're looking for that orangey fuzzy bottom side. Little pile of leaves here, and we're going to make some tea here now that we have it collected. We're going to make them with fresh leaves. I'm not sure if that's the best way to do it, but we're going to find out. And I will say that Labrador tea, if consumed in high concentrations or in high quantities over a long period of time, may be toxic. So here's a disclaimer: do this at your own risk. I don't advise it. We're going to do about 30 leaves and take it from there. I'm just going to take a regular saucepan here and boil some water. And I read that if you don't boil the leaves, but rather boil water and then let it sit for a little while to cool off, and then kind of just steep the leaves, it's a safer way of consuming that. I don't know if that's true, but that's the way I'm going to try. So I'm going to try to boil some water, let it sit for a little while, and then add the leaves, then strain them out and make some Labrador tea. So here's a little pile of Labrador tea leaves. This is what I'm going to add to the pot of water after it boils, and I let it cool for a little bit. And Yeah, once again, just compare the Labrador tea leaves to that of leather leaf. They're different. Leather leaf does not have that hairy underside. It just has a little bit different of a growth form. So yeah, alright, so this water is almost to a boil, and then I'm going to add these Labrador tea leaves to the pot, but I'm going to let it boil and chill for a little bit. So yeah, this water is almost to a full boil, and once it boils, I'm going to let it sit for a little bit, and I'm going to add these Labrador tea leaves to the pot. This saucepan has been boiled, and now it's rested for a couple minutes, so we're going to add the Labrador tea leaves to it to steep. Here we go, we got a handful of these guys. We're going to add these to the pot. Here we go. Let those steep for a few minutes, 5 minutes or so, I don't know. We'll see. I added those leaves there and let them steep. And then we will strain them out and enjoy some tea, some Labrador tea. And the leaves are steeping. Here we go, Labrador tea. These leaves are steeping. I'm just going to take a strainer and strain out the tea leaves, the Labrador tea leaves into the pot. Strain the water into the pot. Strain out the Labrador tea leaves. Here we go. Alright, here we go. We have the strained out tea. We're going to add it to these 3 cups. And it's going to be interesting to try this out. So here we go. I'm just going to transfer these to these 3 cups, and we'll see how it tastes. Here we go. It doesn't have much of a coloration. It does have a nice aroma, but we're going to try to drink this and see what happens. Cheers, y'all.